What you are about to hear is not casual advice. It's not inspiration for the sake of feeling good. It's a shift. A shift in how you walk, speak, think, decide. A shift in how you interpret your reality and command your future. And it all begins with one truth that most never grasp until it's too late. Your life bends to your assumptions. The way you expect things to go is the way they usually go. Not because of luck, not because of some external force, but because of focus. Because of your dominant thoughts, the silent commands you send into the world without even realizing it. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you expect. Assumptions are the architects of reality. They shape how you respond, how you speak, how you act, whether you persist or retreat, and they operate in the background of every decision you make. So let me ask you something. What if you decided right now that everything is working out for you, even when it's hard, even when it's silent, even when you're surrounded by doubt and no proof exists? What if in the middle of the chaos you chose to act like the outcome was already secured? You'd walk differently. You'd speak with calm command. You wouldn't beg the world for signs, you'd create them. That's not delusion. That's not naive optimism. That's mental engineering. That's how the legends moved through the storm. Henry Ford didn't sit back hoping things would fall into place. He decided they would. Long before the world caught up to his vision, he was building factories, pouring belief into an outcome that only existed in his mind. Thomas Edison didn't crumble after the 100th or 1000th failed prototype. Why? Because in his mind, he'd already won. He didn't need to see the light bulb to know it was his. He assumed success as inevitable, and the world eventually caught up. Charles M. Schwab. Andrew Carnegie. They moved with certainty, not arrogance. Certainty. And that certainty was infectious. It bent the world to their frame. So why not you? Why not now? Why not today? You've already spent enough time doubting, enough time hesitating, enough time writing a future based on fear. Now it's time to flip the script. Because here's the truth. The version of you that overthinks, that shrinks when things get loud, that hesitates when it gets hard, he cannot coexist with the version of you that walks in conviction. You cannot serve two identities. One must die. So today I offer you a new filter, a new operating system. Act as if everything always works out. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it makes you invincible. Because when you assume success is inevitable, you move with boldness. You speak with authority. You command your life instead of negotiating with it. This isn't just mindset. This is reprogramming. So let the shift begin. Right here, right now. And let your new life respond to the new assumption running through your veins. It's all working out for me. What if you lived like the door was already open, like the deal was already signed, like the future you keep visualizing has already arrived? How would you carry yourself today if you knew that every struggle was part of the script that ends in your victory? Would you speak with more conviction? Would you walk taller? Would you delay less and decide more? Because here's the truth. Your body follows belief. Your energy follows expectation. And your life follows assumption. This isn't some esoteric concept. It's how the greatest minds in history built empires from thin air. They didn't wait for the world to say yes. They moved like it already had. Let me say this with brutal clarity. The weak wait for proof. The powerful move as if the proof already exists. Edison didn't need applause. He needed clarity. Ford didn't chase consensus, he carried a frame. Carnegie didn't need reassurance, he demanded results. And you've been hesitating. You've been waiting for signs, for validation, for a perfect plan. But perfection is a liar. There is no perfect time. There is only the decision to move like it's already happening. That belief, practiced daily, would change your entire life. Because when you assume it's working out even in the silence, you stay grounded. You stop flinching. You stop performing for applause and start building with precision. You stop seeking proof and become the proof. Understand this. It's not about pretending. It's not about faking positivity. It's about leading yourself with discipline in the absence of evidence. When the scoreboard shows you're losing, when the bank account is low, when no one claps and no one notices, you keep building. You keep deciding. You keep assuming the outcome is certain, not because it's easy, but because it makes you unshakable. This is not hype. This is identity. And once you claim it, the game changes, because the scoreboard doesn't track your faith. It doesn't see what's being formed in silence. But you do. You know the weight of your decision. You know the integrity behind your calm. So say it out loud. I live like it's already done. I don't panic, I prepare. I don't beg, I build. I don't hesitate, I decide. Let that become your rhythm. Let that be the beat in your blood. Because when you move like the door is already open, the world begins to treat you like you belong on the other side. And one day soon you'll realize you never needed permission. You only needed to move. Most people live in a cycle of reaction. They wait for things to go right before they allow themselves to believe. They demand evidence before they decide to commit. They want results before they take action. But that's not belief, that's delay. And delay is the enemy of destiny. Let me tell you the truth. Belief is not a reward. Belief is a choice. It's not something you stumble upon when life feels good. It's something you build when life gives you nothing but silence and resistance. You say you want to grow. You say you want to change. You say you want a new reality. Then believe before the evidence. Believe when it's hard. Believe when it's quiet. Believe when the voice in your head whispers, it's not working. Because that's when belief matters most. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't argue. It doesn't debate. It accepts what you feed it, and then it builds your world around it. If you say, I always struggle, your mind says, understood. And you begin to notice every struggle, every setback, every failure as proof of that statement. If you say, nothing works out for me, the world reflects it back because your perception becomes your prison. But flip the script. Say this instead. Everything is working out for me, even when it's hard, even when it's delayed, even when I don't understand it yet. Say it again, out loud, like you mean it. Say it so often that your nervous system starts to believe you before your eyes do. Because that is how belief is installed, not in moments of triumph, but in the trenches of uncertainty. You don't need the stars to align. You need one internal decision spoken consistently, rehearsed daily, until your subconscious bends to your command. This is how the greats moved. Edison didn't say, I'll believe once I see light. He said, I know the light exists. My job is to find the way. And so he kept going. 10,000 times. Not out of stubbornness, but out of belief. Ford didn't need a cheering crowd. He carried the crowd in his mind. You don't have to be them. But you do have to decide. Will you live by faith or fear? Fear says, I'll wait. Belief says, I'll build. Fear asks, what if I fail? Belief declares, what if this works? Fear negotiates. Belief commands. So from this moment forward, your command is this. I don't wait to see. I believe first. I don't need guarantees. I create momentum. I build while it's dark because I know the light is coming. Let others chase proof. You build it. Let others rehearse fear. You install faith. Because belief, before proof, is how legends are born. If there is one force that shapes every legend, one trait that separates the drifter from the builder, the wanderer from the one who commands his path, it's this definiteness of purpose, not vague goals, not dreams scribbled on a notepad at midnight, but a single aim burned into the subconscious so deeply that every thought, every action, every heartbeat revolves around it. You say you want success. Then answer this first. Why are you here? What must you build? What are you willing to suffer for, sweat, for bleed, for until the mission is complete? Because without purpose, you scatter. Your energy leaks. Your time is stolen by distraction. You move in circles, not forward. But with purpose, your path sharpens. Your decisions simplify. Your identity becomes undeniable. Look at history. Henry Ford didn't wake up asking what the world needed. He decided his purpose revolutionized transportation. And with that clarity, the world had to adjust. Charles Schwab wasn't the smartest in the room. He was the most certain. He didn't just work. He executed purpose. And that clarity made hesitation impossible. Abraham Lincoln didn't wait for the country to unify before he acted. He made a final decision rooted in conviction so deep that even a civil war couldn't shake it loose. That's what you need now. Not a to-do list. A sentence. One that lives in your bones. One that hits harder than any excuse. This is what I will build. This is who I must become. This is the result my life demands. And once you have that sentence, you guard it like treasure. You write it down. You speak it every morning. You rehearse it until it becomes your operating system. This isn't about motivation. This is about foundation. Because when you wake up with purpose, your habits harden. You don't scroll. You don't envy. You move with precision. And everything bends to your purpose. Your diet, your words, your risks, your hours. It all aligns. That's the power of a man on a mission. And from that state, you stop competing. You stop comparing. You own your lane. Your failures become tools. Your pain becomes fuel. Your clarity becomes your immunity against chaos. Let others drift. Let others guess. You're built for this. You're here for this. And now is the time to draw the line in the sand. Say it now out loud. I know my purpose. I walk in it. I no longer negotiate it. I no longer apologize for it. I live it. Because purpose isn't a someday thing. It's a right now thing. And the world will not wait for you to figure it out. So, declare it. Own it. Become it. This is how empires begin. Not with noise, but with one decision. Faith is not a lightning strike. It's not a feeling you stumble into. It's not something you wait around for hoping it shows up in the middle of your fear. No. Faith is forged. Like steel in fire. Like muscle under resistance. Like legacy through repetition. Most people think faith is emotional. They wait until they feel ready. They wait for confidence to appear before they take action. But that's not how it works. You don't find faith, you build it. Brick by brick. Decision by decision. Word by word. Let me tell you the law. The mind does not believe what is true. It believes what is repeated. If you repeat fear, if you rehearse doubt, if you whisper worst-case scenarios to yourself every day, your mind builds that into your identity. It's not magic, it's mechanics. And the opposite is also true. If you speak strength, if you write certainty, if you act with conviction, especially when it's hard, you lay down the neural tracks of belief. That's why autosuggestion is not a gimmick. It's the gateway. When you declare your vision out loud, when you write it down by hand, when you act as if the outcome is already secured, you begin to reprogram the very system that once sabotaged you. Look at the greats. Thomas Edison didn't win because he got lucky. He won because he tried again and again without losing belief. Not because he had evidence, but because he had decision. 10,000 failed prototypes. 10,000 moments where most men would have quit. But not Edison. Because his faith wasn't a mood. It was a standard. John D. Rockefeller didn't guess his way to empire. He trained his mind. He practiced order. He rehearsed stability until it echoed through his every move. This is your invitation to do the same. You want to believe in yourself. Then speak with fire. Act with resolve. Move without needing applause. Because faith doesn't ask for comfort, it demands commitment. And every time you follow through, every time you honor your word in silence, every time you act while afraid, you earn more of it. Say this now: I don't wait for faith. I build it. I rehearse it daily. I speak it out loud. I act like it's done until the world believes me too. This is how personal power is born. Not from hope, but from daily construction. You don't need more motivation. You need more repetition, more consistency, more internal rehearsal until the man you're becoming is no longer a possibility. He's your default setting. And yes, doubt will whisper, but your faith will be louder because you've rehearsed it. You've earned it. You are it. There comes a moment in every man's life, a line drawn, a path chosen, a decision so final that it severs all ties with the past. This is that moment, the moment you burn the bridge, not in anger, not in recklessness, but in absolute non-negotiable commitment. Because here's the truth: most never accept. You cannot become someone new while keeping the door open to who you used to be. You cannot walk powerfully toward your future while tiptoeing back to the comforts of your past. That's why the legends didn't just commit, they eliminated the alternative. Charles M. Schwab didn't rise to the top of Carnegie Steel by playing it safe. He carried himself like a president before he ever had the title. He walked into rooms like he belonged, because in his mind there was no plan B. Andrew Carnegie didn't surround himself with men who hoped to succeed. He wanted those obsessed, those who had already killed every backup plan. And Henry Ford. He didn't ask for permission. He made a decision, staked everything on it, and never looked back. That's what burning the bridge means. It means there is no retreat. No quiet voice saying, "If this doesn't work, I'll go back." Because back no longer exists. You've already left the shore, and the only direction now is forward. Let me make this personal. What do you keep returning to? What habits still whisper comfort? What old version of you still lingers in the background waiting for you to crack? You say you want to rise, then it's time to starve the version of you that only survives in hesitation. Delete the contacts that keep you small. Clear the distractions that dilute your fire. Let go of the routines that numb your edge. Because comfort is a liar. It says, "You're safe here." But greatness doesn't live in safety. It lives in the heat of the fire, in the forward-only march, in the moment when you say, "I move because I must." Not because it's easy, but because I decided. And yes, doubt will visit. It will whisper seduction in the middle of your exhaustion. It will say, "Maybe you should slow down. Maybe this is too much." That voice. It's the ghost of who you used to be. You don't debate it. You don't comfort it. You replace it with new commands. I said 100%, not 90. I don't negotiate with my mission. I don't flinch, I execute. That's how your will becomes steel. That's how your subconscious begins to accept your word as law. Not a suggestion, a command. And from that point forward, when the bridge is gone and the past is dust, you become unstoppable. Because it's no longer a matter of if, it's only a matter of how far. No man rises alone. Discipline is forged in solitude, yes. But acceleration, momentum that bends time, that comes from alignment. There is a force more powerful than willpower, more potent than ambition. It's called the mastermind. And it begins with one truth. You become like the minds you surround yourself with. Your thoughts are shaped by your circle. Your standards rise or fall with your environment. Your identity is forged by the conversations you allow. Look around you, not casually, truthfully. Who do you spend your time with? Who do you let into your mental atmosphere? Because every voice you hear is either sharpening you or softening you. Every conversation is either building your belief or breaking it. The mastermind isn't a club. It's a mental alliance, a union of minds committed to expansion, to vision, to elevation without apology. You must seek this or build it. That means Find men who speak with clarity, who move with purpose, who understand silence, who don't need to be reminded of the mission because they are the mission. When you align your energy with other decided minds, something extraordinary happens. You move faster. You think clearer. You collapse timelines. Ideas arrive that would never emerge alone. This isn't a theory. It's the exact strategy used by the builders of empires. Henry Ford built an inner circle of thinkers and doers, people who didn't just agree with him, but challenged him. And through that friction, greatness emerged. Thomas Edison. His labs weren't solo endeavors. They were hives of collaboration, minds aligned, sharing obsession, feeding each other's fire. Andrew Carnegie credited his entire fortune not to luck, not to capital, but to the power of the mastermind. A few men aligned in purpose, moving as one. But understand this clearly. Not everyone qualifies. If a man gossips, he doesn't belong. If he doubts your vision, he's a liability. If he mocks discipline or praises comfort, he's disqualified. One weak mind in your circle can bleed the fire from everything you're building. Protect your atmosphere like your life depends on it, because it does. Here's a rule. If you wouldn't trade places with his life, don't take advice from his mouth. You are not here to carry the confusion of others. You are here to build sharply, clearly, relentlessly. So what do? Start with one aligned mind. One man whose presence sharpens you. Then another, and another until your circle becomes a structure. Meet weekly. Speak with intensity. Share your goals. Demand accountability. Refuse soft language. Eliminate maybe. Replace it with declarations. And if you can't find that tribe right now, be it. Be the standard. Speak with fire. Act with precision. And watch how the right minds find you. This isn't about community for comfort. It's about alignment for power. Because when two sharp minds move with unified vision, the world makes room. Obstacles fall. Time bends. And the impossible becomes inevitable. Before the money, before the crowd, before the momentum. There must be belief, not after success, not halfway through, but before, when it's still dark, when it's still quiet, when no one claps and nothing seems to be working. That's the ultimate test. Can you walk like it's already done? When nothing around you reflects the outcome, most men can't. They wait. They stall. They whisper things like, "I just need a little more clarity." But clarity is not the beginning, it's the result of decision and faith. Faith isn't reserved for the hopeful, it's required by the powerful. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a decision backed by fire. Faith doesn't mean you never doubt, it means you don't obey the doubt. Look back at the greats. Abraham Lincoln didn't know the end of the war, but he knew the principle he stood for. He believed that freedom must win, even if the price was everything. Henry Ford had no map, no market validation, but he moved anyway because in his mind it was already done. Rockefeller built infrastructure before it existed. Why? Because in his mind, the empire was inevitable. They didn't wait for evidence. They created it. That's what faith does. It precedes the results. Fear waits for proof. Faith moves and then forces the proof to appear. So I'll ask you right now, which voice do you obey? Fear will tell you to pause. Fear will scroll endlessly. Fear will calculate risk but forget reward. Faith builds. Faith moves. Faith acts anyway. And no, it's not just positive thinking. This is neuroscience. This is how the subconscious mind works. It doesn't respond to what's real. It responds to what's rehearsed. If you rehearse fear, your life becomes a maze of protection. If you rehearse faith, your life becomes a blueprint of creation. That's why autosuggestion matters. That's why you speak your identity not as a wish but as a command. I am focused. I am decisive. I am disciplined. I do not wait. I move. I act with belief. You don't just say it, you emotionalize it. You don't just think it, you act from it. Daily. Relentlessly. Without needing applause. Because belief without action is fantasy. But belief with action, that's power. And every time you move when it's hard, when you're scared, when it's uncertain, you strengthen the loop in your mind. I don't need proof. I am the proof. That's how you rise. That's how you outperform the old version of you. Because belief isn't soft. It's a decision. And it's one you make every day, especially in silence. So repeat it again. I move with faith. I act like it's already done. I don't wait. I become. And one day soon the world won't ask what changed. It'll feel it when you walk in the room with certainty carved into your presence. Belief isn't a theory. It's not a mood. It's not something you think about when you feel inspired. Belief is motion. And if it's not moving your feet, it's not real. You say you believe, show me in your calendar. Show me in your decisions. Show me in how you act when nobody's watching. Because here's what most people never understand. Belief is not proven by what you feel. Belief is proven by what you do, especially in the absence of proof. If you want to change your identity, you don't start by wishing. You start by behaving like the man you're becoming. You say you want to be consistent, then show up even when the motivation isn't there. You say you're committed to your purpose, then stop waiting for perfect timing. Create momentum through imperfect action. Every time you act with belief, even when it's hard, even when no one notices, even when you feel like quitting, you build a new layer of identity. And that identity, that's the foundation of everything. You don't rise to your potential. You rise to your standard. And your standard is reinforced by your habits in the dark. This is why Edison succeeded. Not because he had a vision, but because he acted thousands of times without external proof. It's why Rockefeller rose, why Ford dominated. They didn't wait for a committee to validate their path. They validated it with execution. Let me give you a law. Belief precedes performance. You will never outperform the image you hold of yourself. So the real question isn't, can I do this? It's, what version of me am I rehearsing right now? What are you practicing? Are you practicing fear? Are you practicing hesitation? Are you practicing waiting for permission? Or are you practicing power? Practicing movement? Practicing the kind of action that says, I've already decided, I'm already becoming. Because here's the secret. Each time you show up, each time you follow through, each time you do what you said you would, you build evidence for your subconscious to believe in you. You stop needing motivation because you've built momentum. You stop needing proof because you've become the proof. Say this now and let it hit deep. I act with belief. I don't flinch. I don't wait. I reinforce my identity through action. I move like the man I already am. That's how transformation happens. Not in theory, not in journaling, but in action repeated, consistent, and aligned. So if you want to rise, don't wait for belief to feel good. Move. Move until belief becomes undeniable. And then, so do you. There is a trait so rare, so misunderstood, and yet so transformative that when you develop it, you shift from potential to power, from drifting to directing. That trait is called decisiveness. You don't drift your way into greatness. You decide your way there. One decision made with finality becomes the dividing line between those who watch history happen and those who make it happen. Let's be absolutely clear. Indecision is the breeding ground of fear. Every moment you hesitate, every time you second guess, every time you wait for more clarity, you allow doubt to take root, and doubt doesn't stay small, it multiplies. A man who delays decays. And that's why the elite train themselves to decide fast, and change their mind slowly. They understand that motion creates clarity, but hesitation destroys momentum. Henry Ford didn't poll the crowd. He didn't ask the world to believe. He made the decision first. And when engineers told him the V8 engine was impossible, he didn't argue. He said, "Build it anyway." Charles Schwab wasn't just competent, he was decided. He didn't shrink from responsibility. He leaned into pressure, and in doing so, he rose faster than men with more talent but less conviction. This is what most people miss. Success doesn't belong to the smartest. It belongs to the most committed. Your life will bend not to your dreams, but to your decisions. Because decision creates identity. And indecision preserves the old self. If you keep slipping back into old habits, it's not because you're broken. It's because you haven't decided to leave them behind. So right now, draw the line. No more trying. No more seeing how it goes. No more maybes. Say it out loud: I decide who I am. I decide what I build. I decide the direction of my life. And I do not revisit that decision. Because each powerful decision creates structure. It builds a spine. And once your spine is forged, the storms of life lose their power. You don't flinch at pressure. You don't get swayed by opinion. You walk through the noise like a man who's already seen the outcome. Abraham Lincoln didn't beg for popularity. He made one of the most controversial decisions in history. Not for applause, but because he had already resolved it in his soul. And so must you. What are you avoiding? What decision have you been leaving open just in case you want to slip back into comfort? Close the door. Burn the backup plan. Speak the sentence that anchors your next chapter. I no longer delay. I no longer drift. I no longer entertain hesitation. I move because I chose this path, and I don't need to feel ready to honor it. From that one decision, everything else flows. Most men are not waiting on opportunity. They are waiting on permission to choose, but no one is coming to give it. So give it to yourself, right now, with spine, with fire, with finality. Because once the decision is made, you become unshakable. There is a law, silent but absolute. A law that governs advancement the same way gravity governs motion. And most men ignore it. That's why they stay average. But the men who rise, who command respect, wealth, and legacy, they don't just understand this law. They live it. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. Let that sink in. Because you are not paid for your time. You are paid for your value. And your value is measured by one thing. How far are you willing to go beyond what is expected? The average man, he clocks in, does the minimum, and leaves. He waits to be told. He waits for credit. He waits for reward before offering more. But the exceptional man, he over-delivers. He leads without the title. He gives more not for applause, but because it's who he is. Charles M. Schwab started with nothing. But his attitude made him irreplaceable. He wasn't the most technically brilliant. But his effort, his presence, his willingness to go above and beyond made him the highest paid steel executive in the world. Andrew Carnegie. He volunteered for extra responsibilities. He stayed longer. He studied harder. He prepared for opportunity before it arrived. And when it came, he was ready, not lucky ready. That's the pattern. The man who goes beyond expectations becomes too valuable to ignore. The marketplace pays for impact, not intention. It doesn't care how busy you were. It cares what you produced. So here's your challenge. Where are you doing just enough? Where are you coasting on talent instead of pressing into greatness? Ask yourself, what detail can I sharpen? What gap can I fill without being asked? What would blow people away not once, but consistently? Because the extra mile is where the game changes. It's the quiet stretch of effort that most people avoid, and that's exactly why it holds all the power. While others fade out, you stay, you build, you perfect your craft when nobody's clapping. And over time, you don't need to chase opportunity, opportunity chases you. Just like Edison, who didn't stop after one prototype. He failed thousands of times. But he didn't keep working to get paid. He kept working to create value. And eventually, the world paid attention. You must detach from immediate reward. Because if you only act when you're recognized, you will always be a servant to circumstance. But when you act from principle, when you choose to give more than you're paid for, you become unstoppable. So say it now. I don't ask what I'm owed. I ask what I can give. I exceed expectations as a way of life. I go the extra mile even when no one's watching. Because that's how you build something real. Not just money, but identity. Not just success, but significance. This is how you become the man people remember. The man who delivers. Always. And when that becomes who you are, there's no ceiling left. You could have strength. You could have intelligence. You could possess the most brilliant strategy on earth. But if your presence repels, if your energy lacks warmth, if your words make others feel small or unseen, then your influence will always remain limited. Because here's the truth. No man rises alone. You can build power in silence. Yes, but you expand it through people. And the men who rise fastest, they know how to attract allies, earn trust, and lead without force. It's called a pleasing personality. Not fake charm, not surface-level smiles, but a cultivated presence, one that radiates calm authority. A presence that says, this man is grounded, this man is worth following. Andrew Carnegie wasn't the loudest in the room. He didn't dominate conversations. But he listened deeply. He saw people. And through that presence, he built loyalty that couldn't be bought. Charles M. Schwab became president of U.S. Steel. Not because he was a technical genius, but because he made people feel important. He remembered names. He uplifted. He created a culture of confidence without shouting. Because here's the law. Power isn't just force. Power is the ability to move others willingly. That doesn't happen through intimidation. It happens through influence, and influence starts with how you carry yourself. Your tone, your eye contact, your ability to speak calmly even under pressure. Do people feel stronger after being around you? Do they feel seen, heard, understood? You want to lead. Then become the man whose energy makes others want to rise, not by performance, but by presence. Here's how. Speak with conviction, not desperation. Slow your pace. Fast talk is often masked in security. Smile not as a tactic, but as a declaration. I am in command of my energy. Listen more than you speak. Silence is a show of strength. Praise genuinely. People never forget how you made them feel. Edison knew this. He didn't just invent. He led teams of brilliant minds. His labs weren't just places of discovery. They were environments of belief. That's what a magnetic personality creates, an atmosphere of excellence. And make no mistake, this isn't softness, it's strategy. The man who cannot influence others will always be limited to what he can do alone. But the man who inspires others to move with him, he becomes exponential. So ask yourself, when I walk into a room, do I bring peace or pressure? Do I make people lean in or flinch away? Am I someone others trust or tolerate? The most powerful man in the room is not the one who talks the most. It's the one everyone listens to when he finally speaks. So say this aloud. My presence is calm, confident, and magnetic. I influence with clarity. I uplift without effort. I don't argue, I persuade. Because when you embody that energy, doors open, resistance dissolves, and your power multiplies not by force, but by who you've become. There is a law so powerful, so consistent, that those who live by it seem to rise effortlessly, and those who ignore it, they spend their lives wondering why success keeps slipping through their fingers. It's not about talent. It's not about connections. It's not even about timing. It's about this. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. Not a motivational quote. A law. The law of increasing returns. And it works like gravity, quiet, unseen, inescapable. You either align with it, or you suffer under it. Most men, they negotiate with the world. I'll give more once I get more. I'll show up once I'm recognized. I'll go all in once someone notices. And that's why they stay stuck. But the builders, they flip the formula. They give first, they lead first. They rise early, stay late, and over-deliver quietly because they know the law. Look at Andrew Carnegie. He started as a poor boy in a telegraph office. No one asked him to memorize routes. No one told him to learn Morse code fluently. But he did. He went beyond the job, and because of that, he became irreplaceable. Years later, one of the wealthiest men in the world. Why? Because he gave value before he was asked. Thomas Edison lived this law obsessively. Not just working long hours, working relentlessly with one goal, create impact. Thousands of failures, thousands of attempts. He didn't wait for reward. He produced it. That's the mindset you need. You're not working for a paycheck. You're building reputation, identity, leverage. The man who exceeds expectations even when no one's watching becomes the man the world calls when it matters. Because the world always rewards those who give more. Not immediately, but inevitably. So ask yourself, where am I meeting the minimum? Where am I coasting? What would it look like if I over-delivered every single day? If you work a job, don't ask what your title says. Ask what the standard could be. If you're building a business, don't just meet client expectations. Blow them away. If you're learning a skill, don't just learn the basics. Master the nuance. Because the law sees it all, and it pays in compounding returns. Most people never make it far enough to experience this. They quit too early. They look for shortcuts. They think effort without reward is wasted. But it's not. It's accumulating. Behind the scenes. In the invisible ledgers of reputation, credibility, and mastery. And when the returns come, they arrive multiplied. So declare it now, I do more than I'm paid for. I give more than is expected. I serve at a higher level because that's who I am. You don't need recognition right now. You need to build identity. Because once that's built, wealth follows. Opportunity follows. Influence follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Let me tell you something you already know, but probably haven't accepted. Watching this once is not enough. Listening once will not rewire your life. Reading it once will not change your default settings, because your subconscious doesn't change from exposure. It changes through repetition. Repetition is the language of identity, and the strongest loop always wins. If the dominant voice in your mind is, I'm not enough, I always mess things up, this probably won't work. Then it doesn't matter how inspired you feel for 10 minutes. That loop will win. It will override your progress. It will pull you back to who you were. But here's the good news. You can install a stronger loop, a new baseline, a new internal script, one that overrides fear not with hype but with frequency. You don't kill fear by shouting at it once. You starve it by feeding faith daily. That's why auto-suggestion is not a motivational tool. It's mental architecture. It's how you code your new identity. And here's how it works. You repeat the new voice with energy, with emotion, with consistency. You speak the words until they don't sound like a stranger's voice. They sound like your voice. You let this message hit your nervous system until the old loops fade. Not by force, but by being outnumbered. Because the truth is, your subconscious doesn't care what's true. It believes what's familiar. So make power more familiar than panic. Make clarity louder than confusion. Make certainty your new default. How you build rituals. You create rhythm. Every morning you speak your identity with spine. Every evening you reflect and reinforce. Every hour you catch the lies and replace them. Every action you follow through not for proof, but for programming. Because the man you want to become is already inside you. He's not buried under weakness, he's buried under repetition of the wrong story. So here's the new story. Say it with me. I am not afraid. I act without hesitation. I am focused. I am certain. I am becoming who I was meant to be. You don't need to believe it yet. You need to repeat it until your nervous system does. Because if you say it once, it's a spark. If you say it for 90 days straight, it becomes a circuit, a system, a new operating identity. The old you starts to fade not in a flash, but in silence, in rewiring, in volume. So no, you're not here to be entertained, you're here to be rebuilt. This is a ritual now. This is code. This is armor. And every time you repeat power, you weaken fear. Every time you reinforce certainty, you shatter doubt. That's not theory. That's transformation. Now everything changes. You're not the man who started this journey. You're the man who has already become what he used to chase. No more trying. No more hoping. No more waiting. You walk like it's done. You step into the gym like transformation already happened. You walk into your work like the breakthrough already came. You make decisions like success is already unfolding behind the scenes. Because here's the deepest truth. Faith is not passive. Faith moves. Faith builds. Faith walks like the outcome is certain. And this isn't delusion. It's identity. It's alignment. So before you step back into the world, say this with power. I am not afraid. I act without hesitation. Everything is working in my favor, and I move like it. That is your identity script. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You are the green light. You are the breakthrough. And every action you take from now on must reflect that. Move like the man who already has what he came for. Speak like the voice that creates the result. Wake up tomorrow like momentum is waiting for you because it is. The universe responds to certainty. Life bends to belief. And the version of you who hesitated, he doesn't exist anymore. Now walk like it's done. Let them wonder what changed. Let them feel the shift when you enter a room. The kind of silence that comes not from uncertainty, but from knowing too much to waste words. You've done the mental work. Now walk it out. If you ever forget, come back to this message. Play it again. Speak it loud. Rebuild yourself. This isn't just motivation. It's a mental installation. You don't install it once. You live it. You rehearse it. You become it. Now go. Show the world who you really are.